Welcome to the Check Swing Podcast with myself and Miguel Santo over there doing his thing, rocking the Phillies throwback. The maroon is the maroon is Cardinal
Yep, maroon and baby blues.
maroon and baby blues as he always does. He always rocking some type of jersey, some type of throwback, something to keep the people. It gets the people going. And mm, man, I just made a mistake. Uh, just for everybody, I think I pulled a muscle in my neck or something, and
Dude, it wasn't even not even 12 seconds into the
oh, you
broadcast.
gotta understand. I think I shrugged my shoulders and it hurt, and I made a face. So it was like, all right, I see that's probably going to happen a lot in the show. So let me explain it away right now. But I'm of the age now where you can hurt yourself literally not doing anything, and I was literally just standing there, and I can feel the hurt creeping up on me, and then it got me. So literally, like I could feel it, like getting to the spot, like this is where we want to be, right here, pain, and now I'm in pain.
You know what's funny? I actually that's how I broke the bone in my foot. Sleeping. I woke up one day and I felt this sharp pain in my foot and it felt like a cramp at first. Then I started walking on it and it wasn't going away. Long story short, I went to like a couple of doctors and they're like, you have a hairline fracture on the third metatarsal, so three toes in. And I had to be in a walk. Remember when I was in the walking boot for
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and I broke it twice because remember I was in a walking boot 6 months later. So
I remember. I remember.
fun
Mm.
stuff. I was still running around like a maniac though.
And I told you about at the time. It reminded me of my third grade teacher, who I'm not gonna put her name out there, but a lot of people will remember her that I had class with, or maybe even people that were in my elementary school. But she broke her foot somehow. I think you know those heaters that are in the classroom.
Yeah.
I think something like the cover fell, came off and landed on her foot. At the time, I wasn't in the classroom when it happened. When I came back, it had already happened. But I feel like, and I was in third grade at the time. My school went all the way to six, from K to six. I feel like every year since then, she had a walking boot on every single year after that. And that's what it reminded me of you. Like you had a walking boot on one season, then you were good, and then all of a sudden you come back with it on again the next season. What
My
is the
elementary music teacher always had her annual baby. She was literally pregnant every year in November. Either she was just pregnant or she was getting, I think from the time of first grade to eighth grade, she had like 13 children.
sheesh? Well, look, this show is taking on a life of its own.
She likes music.
I usually start shows a certain way. It kind of started a different way today, just by happenstance. But let's go back to how we usually do. Miguel, how you been, brother? It's been a week. How you been?
Sir, I am doing well down in the DMV representing Philly. Um, Starting some new business ventures, also breaking out into some opportunities down here, baseball wise. So, now I'm going to be able to provide lessons and start on some
Let's tell the
clinics.
people about that. You want to tell the people about that?
Sure. So let's say last couple weeks, been looking to formalize a plan to provide lessons at the facility where I currently coach at. So hit me up via my email, msanta1076 at gmail.com. I'll be providing one on one lessons, personal training for sessions, individual and groups. I'll be providing that service for $30 a half hour and $6 an hour. And I'll be cashless. So hit me up. All of my Maryland crew out there, anybody that's looking, it doesn't matter what age, I specialize in hitting and catching.
There you go. There you have it. All the baseball people out there, and this is a baseball based show. It's a sports show, but we talk about anything and everything on the show. But there you go, right there. You want to get your lessons up, get your put down in the DMV. I like Coach Sam. We're gonna make it happen for you. We both are trainers, but right now, if you're the DMV, that's what you want to do. I like Coach Sam right there. Definitely hook me up. Here, holla at him, MSANTA1076 at gmail.com. That's MSANTA 1076 at gmail.com. Make sure you holler. Tell them Jay Chris sent you. All right? Tell 'em and with that being said, interesting stuff here. We are back in the. We're back talking about baseball. We're in a lockout. Um, what's the latest on the lockout?
Well, both sides met within the last week. I want to say earlier this week, end of last week. Um, I know one of the things that I had pointed out was they were talking about um, ending the arbitration years earlier. So normally, just to kind of catch everybody up, if you're drafted by a major league team, you'll be contracted with that team for at least 6 years. They wanted to reduce it to 5. They took that off the table. Um, but a couple of key things that Major League Baseball and the Players Association are negotiating is pre-arbitration bonuses for the top 30 players that have. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Um, Pre-arbitration bonuses for rookie players if they reach the top 30 in the WAR stat, wins above replacement.
Mm,
So the Players Association would like there to be a total of about $105 million worth of bonuses for those players. Major League Baseball countered with 10, so they're obviously pretty far apart.
oh, they wanted what and what was the original number and what and they counted with
So
what was the number?
the Players Association would like $105 million allotted in bonus money. So it's like a pool of money, but it's $105 million total for the top 30 players in that WAR category. So basically, what it gives an incentive to the young players if they outplay their contract, instead of like blowing up the contract or anything, there's a bonus pool that says, okay, if you're in the top 30 in wins above replacement, then you'll get part of that bonus pool money, if that makes sense,
God,
right?
okay,
So the negotiating number is MLB started at 10 million, but the Players Association wants 105 million worth of bonus money. So they're several millions apart in that
got
number.
okay.
And that funny thing we talked about minimum wage. So the MLB um, gave them number as 615,000 as a minimum base salary, and MLB, the Players Association, counted with $775,000 a year.
So they're not too far away on that number.
Not too far away, but the
Sorry.
you play with all those new features.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes you gotta do it on the fly.
Right. But both sides pretty much conceded, their hard line deal, so they're actually working on a day to day basis to try to kind of meet in the middle. So it's promising, it's progress, but we'll see. Usually there's a shouting match and then it ends and then that's it. So, but last I heard, as of this afternoon, Major League Baseball is willing to cancel games if need be. So, they always have to have that threat, that veiled threat out there as well.
Right, right.
So those are kind of like the tidbits. There's a whole bunch more, but it's kind of like it's not more economic than anything.
I
So
got you. I got you. So they're far apart on one number, which extremely far apart, and the other number they're not too far apart
not
on.
too far apart.
It's kind of crazy because you explained it last week. I didn't realize that rookies were under contract for 6 years.
So what happens is because like take football for instance. There's no such thing as a guaranteed contract in football. Really, the only years that are guaranteed are like the first 2 years, and then after that, a team can cut you. So in football, it's
And
really
that
about
also depends on where you were drafted too, correct?
true draft position. I think if you're like top 10, you can't make above a certain amount. But but usually like a guaranteed rookie contract is on average of 3 years. But like I always use Terrell Owens. Like the Eagles signed him for 7 years. He had a 7 year contract with the Eagles, but he only played two. But he got a really big bonus. So that's why, like in football, it's always about the bonus. So it's like, why did he only make like 2 or 3 million? Because he got a $30 million bonus or a $15 million bonus, which they spread out over the life of the contract. But in baseball, the money's guaranteed. There's no getting out of the contract. There's a player named Grady. Is it Grady Sizemore? No, I'm thinking of a. There's another player. He's played for the Yankees, but he hasn't played in like 4 years because he has a degenerative arthritic issue. He's still making 15, $20 million, and he hasn't played on the field in like 4 or 5 years. So baseball, for you young guys out there, athletes, baseball and basketball have the most guaranteed money. Go for those sports. Hockey's a close third, but
But the Flyers stink right now, so we
yeah, 13 in a row isn't good. So baseball, contract is mainly guaranteed for the 6 years, but if you outplay the contract after the third year, you can go to salary arbitration and kind of try to negotiate a little bit of a raise. But they don't do that until after the third year of the contract. So
that's interesting stuff right there. Interesting stuff. As we're getting all the Russian hackers trying to crack into our show here.
we don't want to hear from off sync sneaks.
No, none of them. None of them.
Are these, you think
Also,
you think these are the same Russians that hacked the election?
could be. I don't know. We're that important, right? So I don't see why not. I don't see why not. Um, moving along. Yesterday was a big day for baseball. All right, for Major League Baseball. Big day because it was the day that the votes came in and turned in as of 6 o'clock p.m. yesterday for the Hall of Fame, for baseball's newest Hall of Fame class. Some of the names on the ballot, some names that you'll know: Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, David Ortiz, Kurt Schilling, Jimmy Rollins was on the ballot. I want to say Ryan Howard was on the ballot too, correct?
Ryan Howard was on the ballot and he got 2% of the vote.
I'm surprised he got that. I don't see Ryan Howard getting in. Love Ryan Howard, fan of Ryan Howard. I don't see him getting in because a lot of his career coincided with David Ortiz, and David Ortiz was the dominant lefty
Yeah.
of the
Hey,
time.
and David Ortiz could hit a curveball and a slider.
Yeah, he could. He could.
Don't get me started on Ryan Howard.
But um let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay. Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds, this was his last. I think him and Clemens, both their last
Yep.
opportunities on the ballot. You have 10 years once you're initially eligible on the ballot. You have 10 years in baseball. After those 10 years, they take your name off the ballot for a certain amount of time, and then you get the. I forgot what it's called. I call it the old head exemption, but that's not what it's called officially.
Well,
Uh,
they get nominated on the today's game ballot.
oh,
So
that was called
in December, it's called the today's game ballot. They'll be part of the today's game, and then if they don't make it after a certain amount of years, then it's the early days committee or something to that effect. But I'll get the proper name.
Well, either way, we're not going to see him on the ballot for a while, right? Um, Barry Bonds, one of the greatest players of a generation, was caught up in the steroid scandal. Never tested positive. Never admitted to anything. So as far as we know, didn't do it. Right? Not voted into the Hall of Fame for a 10th time. Miguel, when you saw that, what were your thoughts?
Well, I think they opened a Pandora's box because you allowed Ortiz in, and I think part of me thinks it was done intentionally to kind of gauge to see if somebody was rumored to be under the influence of steroids, what would the fan reaction be? But I also think it kind of helped because there were so many alleged steroid users on this ballot. Alex Rodriguez got 34% of the vote in his first year. Um, and Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, I mean, they were at 65 and 66%. So they were close. So I just, and I think it goes back to that piece we talked about a couple of weeks ago about the writers being the judge, jury, and executioner on who gets in. I think, you have to allow some sort of fan vote as a percentage of the vote. You know what I mean? Players and managers, same thing. You know what I mean?
I,
To a degree, I think.
I lean more so towards the player. I know you said it a while back. I lean more towards the players and managers. Um, I lean heavily towards people that are in the Hall of Fame. Um, because it's kind of like, we're in the club. You want to join our club? They should get a vote. Even, I mean, there's going to be bias anywhere, right? There's going to be bias, player to player, coach to player, reporter to player. There's going to be some type of bias at times, but I really feel like the people that write about the game, and I don't mean it to demean any writers, but I don't think they should have the final say on who gets into the Hall of Fame. I just don't. And as you see, Barry Bonds, um, Pete Rose, even though Pete Rose, I think his name was taken off the ballot, and he's, all that. Um, Roger Clemens. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, actually yesterday before the results came out, and I think Roger Clemens should get in. I don't think he will get in, and I think the reason he won't get in, and this was my personal thing, was because not because he was in the steroid scandal, but a lot of it had to do with he had a roid rage moment in the World Series for the world to see, and I know it's not talked about a lot, but what he said to me made a lot of sense. And what he said was the writers never forget. They never
Right.
forget.
And it leads back to, again, the whole issue with Dick Allen, which I know it beat to death, but you're right. The writers don't forget. You know, the old racist writers don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, I mean, there's even when you look at like a Kurt Schilling who never won 300 games, wasn't, you know, he had 300 strikeouts a couple times. Wound up changing his game a little bit when he started losing velocity and still won. The man was clutch. However, I think for Kurt Schilling, because of his, I'll say douchebaggery, if you will, not not very well loved
You
by
talking about his off the field
off
thing?
the field business ventures with the baseball game company. Trying to compete with MLB The Show and treating employees bad, and his political views. Um, some believe he's a borderline racist and a Nazi and all these other things. So you know, I was talking to a family member of mine, and they always, we were talking back and forth about character. What should the components be now going into the Hall of Fame if we're talking about character? You have astute players that are in the Hall of Fame like a Willie Stargell or Roberto Clemente, but then you have you know a Mickey Mantle who was a stone cold alcoholic and a woman abuser, and Babe Ruth who was a hoe, and then you have Ty Cobb who was probably one of the worst human beings on record, and even rumored to have murdered somebody. Yet he was the second ever to be you know installed into the Hall of Fame next to Babe Ruth and honored for such things. So it's like,
I I I'm sorry. For,
no, no, you good.
I feel like those things didn't matter to people back then. I feel like as a society now things matter. Those things
Okay.
matter more because you can hear about them, you can know about them, you can find out about them a lot easier. They're talked about a lot more with our news cycle. Um, you know, I feel like, and I'm sure, and I know people read the paper more so. at that time because that's where you got your news from. Um, they probably didn't talk about a Ty Cobb, the Mickey Man. They probably didn't talk about the things as they would today, as they talk about how many people Derek Jeter then dated, the Tyra Banks, the Mariah Careys, the Holly like we what do we know? We know one of the guys from back in the day dated Marilyn Monroe, right? Who was it?
Jolton Joel DiMaggio.
Joe DiMaggio dated Marilyn Monroe, but we don't really know about we really don't know what was going on. Um, but I
I
feel like back then, like I said, I just feel like it didn't matter as much to the people back then.
just,
Um, I am one that says it should really be based on your on the field accomplishments. It's the Hall of Fame. Now, I do have a place in my heart for people that do good things consistently.
right.
Like let's go to football for example. The NFL has an award called the Walter Payton Man of the Year, that's given out to somebody that has demonstrated sense of community and helping people and all like that. I don't know exactly what the award is given for. I can't give you the exact description, but anybody that knows, it's given to good people that are doing good things. I have a sense of I have a place in my a special place in my heart for people like that maybe people that are good baseball players and do good things. Maybe they should have their own a special wing. For instance, let's say a guy like let's take Dave Hollins because that's the first name that came to my head. Let's say Dave Hollins was, saved babies from burning buildings on a daily basis, but was just a mediocre baseball player. And let's say he had a foundation where they would just save babies from burning buildings, right? Great thing to do. Maybe Dave Hollins should be in the Hall of Fame for his accomplishments as being a baseball player, but doing the good things while being a baseball player. But I don't think that poor accomplishments or I'm sorry, poor decisions off the field should keep you out of a Hall of Fame that is supposed to celebrate who you were on the field. Terrell Owens, T.O. got him because of what he did on the field. They kept him out because of the stories that happened off the field. Nothing he did on the field kept him out of the Hall of Fame. Nothing,
And
right?
not for nothing, nothing off the. I mean, other than him doing sit ups in his parking lot, which I don't consider that like bad. That's actually rather impressive to do sit
For
ups.
instance, people do sit-ups in the parking lot all the time. It just so happens there was a bunch of news cameras out there. I was at work that day. I worked in TV. I remember that day very well,
Right.
very well.
But you know what's funny about this whole thing, right? The player with the most hits, the player with the most home runs of all time, and the player that has the most Cy Young awards ever in the history of the game are not in the Hall of Fame. And I think something that's kind of hypocritical too, and I've heard people mention this, like you have Pete Rose's bat in the Hall of Fame, his uniform, the ball that he hit, 4192. So you have it there for people to pay to view the artifacts of it, but yet you can't have him in the Hall of Fame. And then now all of a sudden we have FanDuel, we have all these gambling sites that you're reconfiguring arenas and stadiums for gambling. You're building casinos next to stadiums, yet you still have Pete Rose. I agree with you in the fact that with Pete Rose and specifically, allow him to be in the Hall of Fame for the accomplishments that he did on the field as a player, because I think you run into the player as a player and then the player after, I don't say afterlife, but the second life, I guess you could say, where a player may become a coach. So like a player like Gil Hodges, who was a Brooklyn Dodgers great. He was a great hitting, legendary hitter, and he was also a legendary manager because not only did he win World Series for Brooklyn, but he also was part of the Mets miracle 1969 Miracle World Series, the Amazing Man. So he was a successful coach as well. Now, had he been bet on baseball as a coach, I would still detach that because it's different from being the player. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if Pete Rose, who bet on baseball as a manager, still should, I think that you can separate the two because they're technically two different entities.
Yeah, because you can actually, and I'm sorry if you kind of if this is true, you can be in the Hall of Fame for two different things.
Right. Exactly.
You can be in as a coach. You can be in as a player.
Right.
So
Which is what I think Gil Hodges went in as both a player and a coach.
I just want to I just want to say this: players receiving less than 5% of the vote will drop off of future ballots. So some of the notable names that you will not hear about on future ballots: Tim Hudson, Lincecum, Ryan Howard from right here in Philadelphia, right as from not from Philadelphia, but he was a Philly. Mark Teixeira, Justin Morneau, Jonathan Papelbon,
That's not a
Prince
loss.
Fielder. I didn't think Papelbon was a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely not. And the fact that he
He was
got
probably
one four
Hall of
three,
very good, but
he technically got, well, he got more votes than oh no, Jimmy Rollins got 9%. Never mind, I just saw that.
yeah, Jimmy's gonna stay on the ballot. Prince
Bobby,
Fielder, AJ Krasinski, Carl Crawford, and Jake Peavy will not be on any future ballots. Some notable names that were on this ballot that won't. I mean, all of them are notable names. They're Hall of Famers, they're borderline Hall of Famers. Jimmy Rollins, like we said, Bobby Abreu, who played here in Philadelphia, Torrey Hunter, Manny Ramirez is not yet in the Hall of Fame. Sammy Sosa, uh, Andy Pettit, Jeff Kent, a lot of names. Andrew Jones, I can go through it, but some of the ones that we're focusing on: Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Kurt Schilling. Um, but let's talk about a little bit about David Ortiz. He got in first ballot, but was also part of the steroid era. Um, your thoughts on him getting in and the other guys not? It's tough.
it's tough because like look, Barry Bonds, seven time MVP, 14-time All Star, 12-time Silver Slugger. Here's an interesting stat, right? Talk about WAR, wins above replacement, right?
Mm-hmm.
David Ortiz's lifetime WAR was a 51. That ranks 182nd all time.
One
Barry
182.
182, 180. There's 181 players in front of him all time.
Okay.
Number two, between Babe Ruth and Willie Mays, is Barry Bonds at 164. Right?
So is so who? So you saying the top three are Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds are top three in that stat?
Babe Ruth, then Barry Bonds, then Willie Mays. Right?
Mm, okay.
So you know who has an identical lifetime WAR at 50.8?
Who?
Andrew McCutcheon.
Really?
So technically, based on that,
One-time MVP.
now here's an interesting thing too. Before steroids, Bonds was still at a 48. That was
Bonds
pre.
was a Hall of Famer before
He was a
before he left.
exact. That's the argument I think. Even Clemens to a degree.
Yes,
Even Clemens to a degree.
I would
I believe
agree.
both players were Hall of Famers before. I guess you could say what 2002 when the Mitchell report came out. So
I told you, I firmly believe Clemens would have been in had it not been for the rage moment, the Royd Rage, what they deem a Royd Rage moment when he threw the bat at Mike Piazza. He said this. He was amped up in the moment. Subway Series, World Series, star player Mike Piazza, the bat break. I get it. I get it. I play the game I play defense with a little chip on my shoulder too, a little bit of an edge. I talk smack to the people that hit the ball to me. It's just how it works for me. Like you hit the ball to me, I'll talk smack to you. I might just say it to myself out loud, so I don't cause a stir, or I might say it out loud because that's just the player I am. You know, I just like to talk smack. It's not a lot of opportunity to talk smack in baseball when you play second base. So you got to make your own opportunities. That's all I'm saying. But back to what I was saying, yeah, I get the moment. You're in the moment, and you don't throw a broke bat at somebody. You don't even go pick it up. You let somebody else pick it up. Leave it alone. You can talk. You can bang your glove. You can smack the glove. Whatever the case may be. That moment, Roger Clemens is what kept you out of the Hall of Fame. I firmly believe that. I firmly do. But David Ortiz, Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah.
No argument there.
No, no, no.
Um, First ballot Hall of Fame worthy.
I would.
I'll say this. I'll say why. I'll say why not. No, everybody can answer it. I'll say why not. Right? He was a bigger than life figure for the time. He was great for the game. He was one of those people that are bigger than the game that they play in the time that they were playing. David Ortiz was bigger than baseball. It is what it is. I'm not saying that he's bigger than the game and the game should bow down. I'm just saying he was bigger than baseball. When you're a player, when you're a household name, you're bigger than your arena.
and
Okay.
and you played in probably one of, if not the greatest rivalries ever. Red Sox and Yankees, and so
At one of the greatest times to be in the rivalry.
yeah. I mean,
Both
how many?
teams were great.
Yep.
Both teams were winning World Series. Like it was a great time. It was a great time. And when I heard he was on the ballot, I said, David, I won't be surprised if David Ortiz got in just based off of the speech he gave after the marathon bombing.
Mm.
That kind of those type of things I feel like set you apart in some people's mind from some of the things in your past that may not be on the up and up.
And I've read some things too that like Alex Rodriguez is kind of, because you notice you've been seeing him like yeah, he was at the freaking Packers game, I think.
Green Bay game, yes, he
He
was.
was at the Green Bay game. So
Tripping. I don't know why. If you're Alex Rodriguez, I am not going to Green Bay, Wisconsin in January in the snow to watch a football game. I mean,
we're
maybe it's a
look,
bucket list thing. Yeah, maybe I would go out there one day
no, listen, you
to see a
take my
football.
ticket. We are a tropical people. We anything below 70 is winter, man.
But
But he,
yeah,
but
your point about Alex Rodriguez, I'm sorry.
no, no, no. But he, I've read that he's kind of on a PR tour of his own, like a quiet, underhanded kind of thing. Because even though yes, he didn't test positive either, he admitted to steroid abuse
Hmm.
earlier in his career to help get him the big contract to come over to the Yankees or with Texas and then to the Yankees. Um, so it's just odd that he's kind of like strategic. I mean, he was even on a segment of SNL when he was dating J Lo. So it's like he's trying to, there's a rumor that he's trying to, you know, make nice with the public and look like your average, go get 'em Joe kind of guy, so he can kind of, get into the Hall of Fame. And not for nothing, his first year at 34% isn't a bad number. I
This
think
was
he
his
might
first time on the ballot this year.
say again.
This was his first time on the ballot.
Yes, this was his first time, first
I
year
think
on
it,
the
I
ballot.
think it takes him at least three. I think it takes him at
Pro-
least three. The fact that Bonds and Clemens didn't get on, I think I think Rodriguez is probably he's probably a lot better liked than Bonds. Everybody's probably better liked in the media than Bonds is. Like the
That's a
media
very
like
very close,
Bonds.
very close.
Like that to me, that's really the only reason Bonds is not in because him and the media just did not get along. It just
Because Alex Rodriguez is a special case because I think like he's not even really well liked in New York.
right,
Because remember that's Derek Jeter's team.
right, right.
So I think when they compared the two, and he was kind of self-absorbed, and I think he kind of like oozed that into the atmosphere, and the fans kind of caught wind of that, and they gave him hell, especially when he was slumping really bad and
Hmm.
all that stuff. So it's not easy playing in New York, and even though he's from New York, I think it might take a little bit longer to get in. But
I was so mad when he left Seattle. Excuse me. That Seattle team, man. That Seattle team was going to be special.
I was rooting hard for that team. Yeah, I was
I
rooting
thought
hard
that
for
team
that
was
team.
going to be special. I thought that team was going to, but looks
After,
like you have something else
no,
for.
no, no, that was just the. I mean, you could put it up, but that was just the stat I had quoted about David Ortiz in comparison to the three greats in war. Um, that's all. But
Let's check that out.
but it's so then the argument becomes okay. Well, if steroids was not an issue, if the steroid era didn't exist, would this still be the case? The only thing that may have differed, maybe the home runs. Maybe he might not have reached up to 700, but maybe he might have reached 600. Um, I still think even without steroids, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, Barry Bonds, because again, before the head swole, before the neck and the earrings, he was, like you said, a first ballot Hall of Famer. There was no doubt in anybody's mind that he was going to the Hall of Fame. Um, but it doesn't help how he handled the press, how he.
Doesn't help at all.
I remember there was an interview. It was an All Star game, and it was him. It was Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla, and Frank Thomas. Right now, Bobby Bonilla. He's fighting the press up in New York, and then you got him next to Barry Bonds. And just to see like their demeanor every time a question was asked, him and Barry would share a look, and then all of a sudden it was like, you just saw like they were just looking for, they weren't taking no stuff from the person interviewing them. And then Frank Thomas, who was kind of like meek and humble, he was laughing at their reactions. He's like, man, y'all guys are rough. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, you know, it's interesting how, the press can turn on you. And like you mentioned earlier in the show, how they don't forget. Yet Mark McGuire, who did that whole 1 hour interview with Bob Costas and admitted to steroids, but kind of weaseled out of it. I think you know in part of that interview, but because he was always buddy and chum with the press, kind of got a free pass. And Barry Bonds wasn't looked at being a coach, but Mark McGuire finally became a coach with the Dodgers, and I think the Diamondbacks, and and then finally Barry Bonds became a coach, but it took him a little bit longer because I think he was a hitting instructor with the Marlins.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Um, and it took him longer because not because of qualifications, at least as far as I'm concerned. It took him longer because of the do people want to have the attention on their franchise of hiring Barry Bonds.
right.
You're hiring not as a manager, but as a hitting instructor. Now, there's going to be a lot of attention there. Do you want to deal with that? And I don't know how bad it really would have been, or how bad it was, or whatever the case may be. But just to come back full circle, Barry Bonds should be in the in the Hall of Fame. It's a travesty. It's not. It's a travesty. Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. These people belong in the Hall of Fame. Now, real quick, I'm going to go through a few names that stand out to me, and I want to ask you: do they ever get in? Okay.
No,
First two names I'm gonna give you are Bonds and Clemens. Do they ever get in?
you know what? I think Bonds will get in, but Clemens won't.
I think they both will get in. I think they both will get in.
And,
Um,
and I'm thinking because of that moment, because I mean, say what like Bonds was tough with the press, but I can't remember a moment where if he was on steroids, he had a rage moment
right.
because that attitude he had with the press. I mean, he's yelling at Jimmy Leland, his manager, way back in 91, 92, talking about get out my face. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
he already had that chip in the beginning. That never changed, but
Right.
you never saw the roid moment that Clemens had. So
Right.
if he does, I think it's going to take him at least the full 10 years. I mean, the 10 years already passed. I'm sorry. I think it may take another 10 years.
He's gonna get one of them old head exemptions.
Yeah, I hope that he gets in posthumously like Dick Allen may. I hope he dies first.
An interesting name here. I say this next name does not get in, but he probably will. Andrew Jones.
Hmm.
Now, that's a tough one.
I don't because I'm trying to think like Barry Bonds. All right, you see the home runs, you see the stance. Roger Clemens, you see the bat flying, you see the strikeouts, you see 20 strikeouts a game. But it's like Andrew Jones. I mean, he was a great outfielder. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to think what was his like. Wow, that's a
Claim to fame.
what's his claim to fame and what's his Hall of Fame moment? You know, like
He
Mike.
came in at the tail end of the great Atlanta Braves era of the '90s, early 2000s. Came in. I call it tail. He came about halfway, right? But I call it tail end because he came at the end of guys like David Justice, Terry Pendleton, Fred McGriff. He
Well,
came at those guys.
he was a rookie. He was a 19-year-old rookie the year they won the World Series.
Right, right.
Um, so he was a five-time All Star, 10-time Gold Glove, Silver Slugger,
Yes, and
400. I didn't realize he hit 434 home runs.
he did it quietly.
He did. He had 150 home run season,
Yes and no.
2005. Yeah, other than that one year, he had 50
Start
home
playing the
runs.
music for you.
What'd you say?
So I'm gonna start playing the music for you. I'm waiting for a yes and no.
Oh, really? Like the Academy? I like to thank Hector and Tito. No, I say he doesn't.
Okay.
Even though he has 400 home runs, which is usually, yeah, I gotta stick with no, only because he didn't lead the league in nothing. The one year he had 51, okay, and RBIs, but other than that, it was one year. Other than that, nothing steady defensively. I'll give him that. He's like the modern day Harold Baines.
One more name for you, and this is another interesting one. Manny Ramirez.
Ah, I knew you were gonna say him.
Manny being Manny. Yes and no. Does he ever get in? He actually only got 114 votes this year.
And that was what, 28% of the vote?
That was, yes, 28.9% of the vote.
He had such a sweet swing, even from the right side. He had a great arm.
What's keeping him off? What's keeping him out of the Hall of Fame? Is it the antics or are the antics helping him?
I think it's both. I think the antics kind of like give him personality because like the stuff that he would do, like I think there was a game where he went up against the wall, then he opened up the door and went behind the scoreboard, like stuff like that. Like it's
Yeah, like he had to go to the bathroom or something. They said.
right. So it's
Yeah.
like they're funny stories. He was kind of a goofball, but at the plate, he was a beast, man. And he was like that, even in high school. I think his senior year in high school, they played 22 games, and I think he hit like 25 home runs, something insane, I think he gets in. I think he gets in, because I think he was a vital part of those championships.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
there were several like he was pretty consistent. I mean, he averaged 40 home runs, you know, at least 5 or 6 times. And he was great with Cleveland, great with Boston. I think he gets in.
Okay. I think he gets in. I don't know how many more opportunities he has, but I think he gets in at some point. I don't know if it'll be on the original ballot or the old head exemption.
Mhm.
But he brought personality to a game that really guys really don't have a whole lot of opportunities to show personality, right? Think about Barry Bonds hit more home runs than anybody in the history of the game of Major League Baseball, according to the records. But he didn't really get, he had more opportunity to show his personality probably than anyone else. And the only thing I can really remember Barry Bonds doing is a bat flip and a hands in the air like that, right?
Hmm.
Um, some of the guys that's on here, I think David Ortiz has some personality. Roger Clemens, outside of the Roy Rage, not a lot. Kurt Schilling, more personality off the field. He's got the bloody sock going for him. Scott Rowland, nah. Todd Helton, nah. Billy Wagner, nah. And Gary Sheffield, maybe, nah, not really.
Gary Sheffield should go in if for nothing else because of his batting stance.
The batting stance belongs in the Hall of Fame for sure, for sure. Yeah, I love it. Actually, my player on the show is using Gary
Are
Sheffield.
you serious?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um,
So
let's move on.
here, a quick question for you.
Okay.
David Ortiz is the first person you would say from the steroid era accused of steroids to be a Hall of Famer. Who do you think is the next one to be accused of steroids that gets into the Hall of Fame?
The next one to be accused and actually gets in
Yeah.
was Sheffield accused, right? I don't
Hmm.
know if Sheffield gets in. Manny was accused, right?
Yep.
We know Sosa was accused. That this was
Actually, Manny was caught using because I think he tried to make two comebacks, and each time he tested positive.
wasn't Pettit accused?
I believe Pettit was on the Mitchell report.
Pettit was he borderline or is he definitely Hall of Fame worthy?
I think he's worthy from a standpoint of being clutch because I know he won a lot of games with the Yankees. He was usually a game clincher. Um, I would say
I'm going to say and I'm not sure. Was Scott Rowland in that too?
he was not, and neither was Ryan Howard.
Neither was who?
Neither was Ryan Howard or Bobby Abreu.
Right. I do know that. Um A Rod. A Rod will be the next person from the steroid era to get in.
Oh God.
And I know I'm shooting for the stars there with that one. There's probably some other people before him just looking at the list. I think Billy Wagner, wasn't he accused at one point?
I don't remember Billy Wagner on the list. It wouldn't
Was it
surprise me.
Wagner or Rocker?
Oh, Rocker. It was John Rocker.
It was John Rocker. Okay.
But he's a schmuck and a douchebag for other reasons.
Vizquel, Omar Vizquel. No.
Omar Vizquel could because he was a great shortstop. He was like the Ozzie Smith for left
He
field.
was, but only thing is I feel like he just came along in an era that there were
No,
a lot of better shortstops. Not I don't know if I should say better, but there were a lot of bigger name shortstops around.
you know why he was it him or was it Alomar? Actually, I think it was both of them. Didn't they get caught for sexual assault? And I think Omar Vizquel. Oh man, let me look up the story.
I'm not sure. I don't want to. I don't want to put that accusation on there. I'm not sure. I'm not. Only thing I remember is Alamar spitting on somebody.
No, they both were. Let me get the. So Omar Vizquel was accused of. Yep, he was the one. He was sexually. He was accused of sexually assaulting a minor league bat boy who was special needs. Yeah, he raped him in the bathroom. So and Roberto Alomar,
Oh, he's never getting in.
exactly, and Roberto Alomar was accused of sexual assault of a female in an elevator. So see now here's the thing. All of this happened post playing days because I
Uh,
believe Omar Vizquel was a AAA manager when that happened. So here's that fine line. Do you? I know it makes you sick, don't it?
Yes,
So,
it does.
but again, it's like, do you separate the player from the manager? Are they really two different people? Just a thought.
Damn man, you got me on that one, right? Do you separate? I'm gonna go ahead and say you have to separate the player from the person when
So
it comes to
you'd be okay with Vizquel going in, accepting the Hall of Fame nomination, and then doing the Hall of Fame speech
no.
from a jail cell?
Are these accusations have they been proven? Like was he
This is
convicted or
as
admitted to anything?
well. This is as of August of last year. Um,
I would not be okay with celebrating him. Let's say these things are true. I would not be okay with celebrating him. How, it's so hard saying
yeah,
that.
because they even
However,
said that
that being
Vizquel
said,
dropped.
I feel like there's his accomplishments on the field, which is what I believe the Hall of Fame should be about.
Hmm,
Those his accomplishments on the field merit him to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, it could be a thing where he gets in the Hall of Fame after he's dead. You know,
posthumously.
yeah, I never really have a good time saying that word. What's it? Posthumously.
Posthumously.
You say it a lot easier than I read it, so I'll say it the way you say it. Posthumous. Yeah,
Just say possum and then chuli. Posthumously.
posthumous.
I don't know.
Posthumous. All right, I'm about to.
Are we taking calls?
We don't have any. I don't have any on here. I'm looking at it here. Don't let me see. Nope, I don't see any calls on here. I'll put the number back up since we are getting ready to wind this down. I'll put the number back up for a few minutes, and I know it's about that time for you to stump me, right?
It surely is.
About that time. So here's what we got. Let me see.
Going back to the sport of baseball.
Baseball. He was a Rookie of the Year, four-time All-Star, four-time World Series champion, a Gold Glover, a Silver Slugger, awarded number 11. Played for the Tampa Bay. Let me guess before you tell me I'm wrong. Played for the Rays. Played for the Yanks. And I never get that team right there. The one with the red in the circle. I never get that one. And those are the same. Is that the? That's not the Indians, is it?
No, that would be your Minnesota Twins. So this
Wait,
player
the
plays
Twins, the Yankees, and the Rays. Is that correct?
no Twins, Yankees, and the Kansas City Royals.
I was close.
couple,
Twins, Yankees.
couple of time zones apart, but you know.
So he didn't win any World Series with the Twins. Well, I mean, what era are we talking about here?
Entire set of the '90s.
Chuck Knobloch.
That's what I'm talking about. First time out.
There we go.
That's what I'm talking about. Go with your gut. Just say it. Spew it out.
I was like, he was a twin. I know him as a twin. I know him as a Yankee because he was going through he had the yips. I
Yep.
don't remember him as a was it a Royal?
He only played his last 2 years. He played, and at that point, he was So he won the World Series as a rookie. He was a Rookie of the Year in 1991, and that was the World Series
Oh, with the Twins, right? I forgot
with the
about that.
Twins.
I always forget about that one.
Yep,
You know why, right?
because it was against your Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, my at one time Atlanta Braves.
What
Yes,
was significant about that World Series? It was a history making moment.
Kirby Puckett hitting that home run.
No. The World Series as a
Tomorrow
whole.
night.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
No, what was significant about that World Series specifically?
Was it the first World Series in a dome?
No, that was 1987.
Who was that?
Minnesota Twins against the St. Louis Cardinals
In '87?
in '87. Yep,
Oh, and then they won
their first World Series was in '87 against the Cardinals, the running Redbirds. because the St. Louis Cardinals just had no power. Then they won in '91 against the Braves.
against the Braves. Okay, they didn't win back to back. I always think they won back to back. They did not win back to back.
Nope.
I always, for some reason, I always think the Twins went back to back, and then the Blue Jays went back to back. I don't know why I always think like that, but
I mean, it was close together, so I can see how you
yeah,
can.
I mean that was my younger days. Who knows? Um, yeah, Chuck Knobloch. I'm glad I got that on the first guess.
So 191. What was significant about that World Series?
Oh yeah, I forgot. um, 91. What was significant about the World Series in 91
It was
historically?
it was a first in Major League history.
In 91, that was the Braves and the Twins, correct?
Braves and Twins.
Bobby Cox was the manager of the Braves.
Who got ejected in Game 6, by the way?
Well, no, you got me. You got me. What was
It
it?
was the first time in baseball history that two teams that finished in last place went to the World Series.
That's
Two,
right.
two, two worst to first teams. First time it ever happened.
That's right. That's right. That is right. I do remember hearing that. I do remember hearing that. Damn. I
Now,
wouldn't have remembered it, but I remember hearing it.
I'm not gonna go into like Game 7 or anything because I'm sure that was heartbreaking as far as like who was pitching and who got the final hit and
Yep. To be honest with you, Miguel, I don't even remember. I just remember I think at that age, what was that, 91? I was 10.
mhm,
Yeah, I was 10 years old. And I remember I always liked the Phillies, right?
mhm.
I'm just letting you into my world a little bit. I always liked the Phillies and I always liked watching baseball, but I was at the age where it was like I watched it. I would always fall asleep watching it when it was in prime time, always fall asleep watching it. But I would watch it, but I didn't, for lack of a better term, I didn't ingest it,
I
if
got you.
that makes any sense. Um, so I remember, I think I fell asleep on the "We'll see you tomorrow night," and I
Hmm.
think I woke up and found out that they lost. And I don't remember watching the game 7,
Got
even
you.
though I think I did. I just don't remember it
Got you.
because I think if it didn't go down to the wire, right? I think like the Twins, did
It
they?
went 10 in, it went so it, Game 7 went 10 innings.
Oh wow,
Jack Morris pitched all 10 innings, and it was nothing for 10 innings. It
well,
was a
and
it was
at 10 years old, that's probably why I didn't watch that game.
right, and it was a straight pitcher's duel because I actually watched that game. It was the only game I saw that series. I was just mesmerized by the pitching. It was Jack Morris versus John Smoltz, and they were just firing, bam, bam. Both teams had bases loaded with nobody else. Both teams got out of the jam. Bases loaded in the ninth. Both teams grounded into double plays. It was freaking exciting. And then Jack Morris, they were like, "Oh, I don't know if he's going to do it." I think he pitched like 186 pitches. He pitched 10 innings, and then John Smoltz got tired in the 10th inning. And then I think was it Alejandro Pena came in to pitch, and then Charlie Leibrandt, who gave up the final hit, I believe. Because I
Damn.
remember
Yeah.
Danny Danny Glad Danny Gladden was on third base. It was a sac fly, so I think it wound up being a runner at third base. And then you know how they walk the bases loaded to try to get the double play, and then they get the infield and outfield in. And I just remember I think Gene Larkin hit a pop up to the left field, and Lonnie Smith was playing left field, and he just looked up, and you just saw this on the way home, and I was like, wow, that's a World Series. I hope every World Series is like this.
As
And,
we
and
all know, they're not, but yeah,
yeah.
it would be nice. Wow, man, that's some good recall by you.
I got a very photogenic memory about stuff. So,
I coach, and I can't recall some details of games that I've coached right after the game.
so insider, he always asks me what inning is it?
What's the count?
What's the count?
Count. That's always the
I'm like, Coach, we're doing ground rules. What's the count? We just started.
This gotta be my. This is my first year on the sideline without Miguel in a long time, so I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Listen, man. There's
Ben, if you're listening, get ready. Take your vitamins. Take your vitamins.
wait for you to come down here, man, so you can so we can
Hey,
coach.
if you can get it to not snow and stuff down there, I'm sure we can make that happen. Just gotta make it not snow and be warm all the time first. Not for me, but for other people.
Snow's fine down here. It just smells like fish.
I say smell. I said snow.
I know what you said.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, yeah, you are near the harbor, so.
Yeah, I really.
Well, look, folks, we're gonna get up out of here. We appreciate y'all for hanging with us for the Check Swing podcast here on New Twist Radio. Make sure you go follow and subscribe to New Twist Radio on all the platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, and share some of the videos. You can check all our shows, the Check Swing podcast, Intelligent Ignorance, Let's Not Argue, um, 10-7. And you can check out the 10-7 show live every Sunday night at 7 o'clock. Just go to youtube.com/New Twist Radio. Make sure you follow all of our social media at New Twist Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And for Miguel and myself, we're gonna get up out of here. We appreciate y'all. Like I said, we love y'all for loving us, and we will talk to y'all next week right here on the Check Swing Podcast. Y'all be good, y'all. Peace.